The air quality in the national capital remains in the very poor category. From toll booths choking Delhi's borders to school closures and vehicle restrictions, Delhi's air pollution crisis is back before the Supreme Court. But this time, the hearings themselves reflect the confusion surrounding the institutional response and the patchwork of directions issued by the court. Hello and welcome to The Print. I, Ruchi Bhattar, will tell you how the top court is questioning whether temporary fixes are replacing real time solutions. Let's look at what all the Supreme Court had to say on Delhi's air pollution crisis this week. A three-judge bench of Chief Justice Surya Kant and Justices Joymala Bagchi and V.M. Pancholi took a sharp note to the National Highways Authority of India and came down heavily on the Municipal Corporation of Delhi over toll plazas at Delhi's entry points, especially along the Delhi-Gurgaon border. The court was told that vehicles are stuck for hours at these toll booths, causing massive traffic congestion and worsening air pollution. Chief Justice of India Surya Kant said the court is not against toll collection but questioned as to why the tolls continue during peak pollution months. He asked, and I quote, why can't the toll collection be stopped till January 31st, adding that tomorrow will we put a toll plaza in the Connaught Place also just because we need money. The court said it would examine how much revenue the MCD earns from these toll plazas and how much is actually spent on highway maintenance, noting that toll plazas also generate heavy litigation. The bench directed the MCD to consider suspending operations at 9 toll plazas temporarily and take a decision within 1 week. It also urged to explore a compensation model where the NHAI could manage the collection at alternative locations and divert a portion of the revenue to the MCD to offset any losses. NHAI was also asked to examine whether toll collection could be shifted to alternative locations with part of the revenue diverted to the MCD to offset losses. On school closures, the Supreme Court chose to stay out. The bench refused to interfere with the Delhi government's decision to suspend physical classes for children up to class 5, calling it a temporary policy decision. However, the court has left the matter for the consideration of the CAQM. The court noted that winter vacations were about to begin and such measures were interim steps meant to protect children and the elderly. It was contended that shutting schools unfairly impacts children from economically weaker families as it disrupts the midday meal program and access to education. Also, that these children are not responsible for pollution as they often walk to school and yet suffer while their parents continue to work outdoors. Chief Justice said that courts cannot act as super specialists and sit in judgment over expert policy decisions during a public health emergency. The bench noted that the winter vacations were about to begin shortly and held that the measure was temporary, therefore finding no reason to intervene. The court observed that short-term measures may not solve pollution, but they offer immediate protection during severe conditions. The Supreme Court also partially reversed and modified its own order, clarifying that the protection from coercive action against older vehicles applies only to those that meet the BS4 or the Bharat Stage 4 or higher emission standards. The court recalled that by an order dated 8 August, it had restrained authorities from taking coercive action against diesel vehicles older than 10 years and petrol vehicles older than 15 years, while it was examining applications seeking a recall of earlier directions. During the hearing, the Delhi government sought a clarification that the older vehicles with inferior emission norms were major contributors to pollution and urged the court to allow action against them. Senior advocate Aparajita Singh, appearing as amicus curiae, supported the submission, pointing out that BS4 standards were introduced in 2010 and that BS3 vehicles predated those norms. The bench clarified that the earlier protection applied only to vehicles meeting BS4 and higher emission standards and that authorities were therefore free to take action against vehicles below BS4. It modified its earlier August 4 order and made it clear that authorities can take action against vehicles with emission standards below BS4 in the Delhi NCR. Protection from coercive action will now apply only to vehicles conforming to BS4 and newer emission standards. The court also agreed that older or higher emission vehicles significantly contribute to pollution levels during smog episodes. Calling Delhi's air pollution an annual crisis, the Supreme Court said ad hoc responses are no longer enough. The court observed that these measures taken so far to control pollution have been a total failure and stressed the need for long term planning and stricter enforcement against the most polluting vehicles and not just seasonal fixes. The matter will next be heard on January 6, 2026. With that, thank you for watching.